Happy Mother's Day, homeschool mamas. Today we're going to talk with Holly about fostering creativity in our homeschool lives. And I brought my little teacup filled with bubbly. But anyways, let's have tea together. I found these lovely napkins, which I would say is kind of on brand for me. These lemons are part of a graphic that I have for the Homeschool Mama Retreat. You'll notice that I infuse various blues and greens because I love color. I love creativity in the form of color, in the form of design, house design. I love the idea of writing, lots of things that I love to do. And wouldn't you believe it, once upon a time, I didn't think I was creative. So if that's you, then stay tuned because we're going to have a talk about creativity and why we need to foster creativity for homeschool moms too. And before I forget, I just want to say, check out the giveaway that's available in a post down below. Pretty obvious, it has giveaway right across the graphic. A whole bunch of amazing things that you can find in that giveaway. You're welcome to join. Even words. Someone that has a beautiful creativity focused around beauty.
Hi.
Hi, Holly. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just going to turn you up here and turn me down so you can actually see my face.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi.
Oh, okay.
Very lightly.
Here, hang on just a second.
Yeah, me too. Because you need to see more than my eyes, probably.
Figure this out here. Hang on just a second. I gotta.
You bet. There were a variety of things. Okay, first of all, I just want to, this is not my forte, but this weekend my daughter invited me to paint with her, and I'm not really a painter, but I put together something that was in my mind, something that looks like a Van Gogh photo. And it doesn't look like a Van Gogh photo, but I tried, and that's all that counts, right?
I can't paint either, so.
I paint. And you know what I was going to share is that once upon a time when I was in kindergarten, someone gave me a big fat red pencil and then said to draw something. And I went, I have no idea. And I mean, really, I had no idea what to draw. And so I started drawing electrical, like large electrical poles, which is really just like a cross. That's it. That's all I had. And I thought I wasn't creative. And I think that some people think they're not creative too. Despite the fact that I spent most of my childhood writing. And once upon a time, I got a devotion published in a book. And that was like the beginning of my accepting that I am indeed a writer. And then, of course, I wrote my book, and I've written multiple posts, articles, and all sorts of things. I would love to hear, Holly, what's your creativity?
Oh, boy. It's a broad range of things. I'm just going to hold my phone here because it's not cooperating. It's broad range of things. I mean, I love decorating. Decorating is probably one of my biggest loves.
You really do. I think you're like the Martha Stewart of the homeschool world. Really,
I mean, I love to write. I love to bake, and I love photography. You know, it's just too much to try and narrow down. So I
remember you telling me one time that you really just love to take note of beauty.
Yep. Yeah.
You highlight.
I think capturing beauty in any form is what I love. You know, whether that's through photography, whether it's writing about it, you know, I mean, I think I like to notice, you know, so many things and being mindful and slowing down. Like, it requires a lot of slowing down and really taking it in. And, you know, that's part of capturing beauty, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you can see that actually at
Yep.
Holly's website,
Yes.
havenwords.com. It is .com, is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it really is beautiful. Your script or your fonts and the photos. And just like you said, it looks like a little snapshot from Grandma's
Thank you.
house.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a bit of nostalgia um, when it comes to
Yeah.
my decorating. It's all inspired by my grandmother, just how I was raised, and you know, just really fond memories with her and her flower garden and her vegetable garden. And she loved to quilt, and those things just stuck with me, and yeah.
So beautiful.
So
Yeah. I still have a quilt that my grandma
mhm.
had as well. It's the best quilt that I
Yep.
have in the, yeah, nothing's falling apart.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it reminds me of grandma. And I like to say I designed my house around my grandma, but I've had family members that say, this is not anything like grandma's house. Hers is more,
Sure. Oh, okay.
farmhouse, obviously
Yeah.
smaller, a lot older. But that was the energy I was going for too, is a
Hmm.
design around grandma's house, nostalgia
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
So tell me, how do you foster that? Because as a homeschool mom of two, and you've been homeschooling for, can I guess, is it about 18, 19 years? How do you include any creativity in
I
your
mean,
world?
as it pertains to homeschooling, or just, in general, or um,
Especially managing the homeschool realm or having kids that are also
yeah, well,
homeschooling.
my oldest daughter is an artist, and she's highly creative. And,
Mhm.
I think I've always fostered that love for creativity in her by just putting things in front of her that have allowed her to be creative. Whatever it was that she wanted. When she was little, she loved crafting and creating all sorts of different things with her imagination. And, as she's gotten older, it's morphed into more painting and drawing, and as well as like makeup and hair and nails. She's
Yeah.
really gifted at that. And so I'm really proud of her for, her creativity. So
Yeah. So you actually
yeah,
just really followed her
yeah,
interests and
yeah.
allowed her to
It was just
expand
what
on it
I
too.
saw her interested in. And, at first it's kind of like shooting in the dark, but then
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you kind of start to pick up on what their interests are. And that's always been a love for her. She's
Yeah.
always, creating something. So making something beautiful as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She looked absolutely gorgeous for her prom. Yeah, she really,
yeah,
like, happy
yeah,
graduation
she went
to
with some
her.
friends.
That,
She's still
yeah.
homeschooled, but she was invited by some friends, and so she had a
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I've seen some of her art too. So beautiful. And I think as homeschool parents, we tend to get out of our kids' way a lot of the time, partly because some of our kids demand it or just say, like, really, let me just go down this rabbit hole and I will be happy. And other times because we just see that they just
Hmm.
come alive with energy when they follow those rabbit trails. And I think we can do that for ourselves too, not just for our kids. I think we can live the same way that we're encouraging our
Absolutely.
kids to
Yeah,
live.
absolutely. I think that myself being creative, and over the years of,
Yeah.
my girls watching me doing different projects and stuff, as I think inspired them in certain ways. My youngest loves to bake with me. And so I think that's
Yeah.
something creative for her. She's not as much into, artwork like my oldest is, but just I think she has a love for decorating, because she's always redecorating my house after I. So there's a little bit of a conflict there with her toys on my, you know, uh, coffee table and stuff. So
You'd think that we actually pre-planned every element of this discussion, but we haven't. And yet you're leading me right into the thing that I think we most need to really embrace in the beginning of our personal creative journeys. It is to accept the mess of our
Yeah.
lives, including
Yep.
the literal physical messes. Because if we were to be in a process of we first need to have everything tidy, everything in its place, we would
For
never
sure.
get to creativity
Yep.
because welcome to parenting. You're going to be a mess
Yeah.
for a
I
couple
think
dozen years at
perfectionism is
least.
something I've always really struggled with. And having my youngest daughter, she's, you know, got a mind of her own when it comes to certain things. And she's, um, what's the word? She likes to make some messes with her toys. And so that's a struggle for me, you know, I've really had to level down on things and embrace the imperfections and just do what I can, you know, even in the midst of messes and stuff like that. So it's been a good,
Yeah, that would
yeah,
be to actually put it out of your mind and then
yep,
find a space to
yeah,
just sit down and do what
for
it
sure.
is you do. Because for me, it's so fueling. Like over the last, I don't know, it's less than 24 years that I really went deep into writing intentionally. But I've done it for a long time. And so then I just find so much
Mm-hmm.
fuel or like energy. That's probably what we're doing when
Yep.
we're allowing our kids to go down their rabbit holes. So then why not
Right,
just
right.
embrace
I
it for
agree. It
ourselves
is
too?
very energizing. It gives you a
Yeah.
dopamine rush. It's
Yep.
exciting when you feel like you're, you know, in your creative zone. And, you know, those are the times where I feel like I'm highly creative, and it's a fun, yeah.
Yeah. It's super, super fun. I remember being in grade 8 and writing a story, which I called the book, based on Michael J. Fox because I had a huge crush on him. I created an entire book on um, this particular actor and another actress. And I woke up, or I realized it was 5 in the morning when I finished, and I realized I had to go to school in 3 hours, which was one of those moments where I went full down the rabbit hole myself into just, I just want to finish the book. And I brought the book to school, and in my social studies class, people passed it around while we were eating corn nuts and listening to the teacher. And then all of a sudden there was like this fire of everyone writing their own short stories. And then it dropped off, of course. But just that passion, it can be also contagious for other people too. And I think that's very much like us as moms. When we're embracing our creativity, then the energy of whatever that creativity is, it gets naturally infused to our kids. I mean, having said that, I'm not in ballet, I'm not a dancer, and I don't know how that happened with my girls. Each of them are great dancers, and I love my husband, but it's definitely had to come from me. So love you, honey. He's yeah. So, but it's infusing. It
For
infuses our
sure.
kids, I
Yes,
think.
for sure. Right.
Also, homeschooling can get kind of dull after a while. As much as we, you know, there's always a new resource to try or there's something new to experience, of course. But sometimes after a number of years, you go, okay, so how many times am I going through this grammar book? Because I got it. I know what an adjective and an adverb is. And it can get kind of dull. So then maybe infusing your routine with things that
Mm-hmm.
are truly of interest to you is also just a benefit for everybody to keep the
Yeah,
homeschool love
definitely. I
alive, I think.
agree with that. We are more unschoolers, and so uh, part of it is just how can we learn through creativity. So, you know, that's the best way I know how to teach my girls, I think.
So tell me how you do that. Like um, a specific topic, do you mean
You know, it
specifically, or
all
how would you
comes
do that?
pretty organic. I've myself anytime I'm really trying to teach them, it doesn't work very well. Um, but it really goes back to putting something beautiful in front of them, whether it's a beautiful book or beautiful artwork or just the things that you need to create. And, whether it's markers and pretty colored pencils and things like that. When my oldest was younger, she would create like the cutest little crafts. We would go to the craft store and then she would learn things through that, whether it was watching YouTube videos of creating these crafts and she would we would play games and do things like that. And I don't know, a lot of the learning has come natural in their day-to-day lives. So
Beautiful. Yeah, one of my girls
uh-huh.
decided to do a slime making business because creativity often comes with entrepreneurship. Not always, but it can, as it is with us. And she wanted to make slime. And so her and her sister put together an entire Instagram channel, the whole thing. And just like they had an enormous number of followers, and they were sending slime around the world and had people sending slime to us. There was slime in the sink. It was quite a story, but that creativity, uh, it was almost like, I don't know, it created a certain kind of interest in life, even though it's just slime making. And it was like they're 8 or 11 or whatever ages they were living their life on purpose right now. And you could say, well, that's just slime, or it's just coloring, or it's just painting. Um, Neither of them are planning to do slime making in the future, but they were both really embracing their life right here, right now, at the stage they were at. And I think that might be the biggest benefit to fostering our creativity, is that we are
Yeah,
really in the moment and
I mean,
present right now.
for sure. And I think the most beautiful moments happen when we're just right there in the moment, uh, and we're not trying so hard, whether it's going, on a nature walk or or something like
Yeah.
that. My oldest she would take along her, sketching materials, and, we would sit somewhere and she would draw. And it was peaceful, and um, it was so beneficial just for her overall emotional health. And it was teaching such a deeper level of learning, that doesn't come in textbooks. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And learning about herself too. Because like I didn't show everybody at the beginning, and I'm doing this on purpose. This is a painting that I made, and it is based on a Van Gogh picture, and it looks like really nothing compared to that. In fact, I have it here. Isn't that wild? This is like a print from the Van Gogh Museum. So if you recognize that print, that was my rendition of it. It's anything but similar. And yet there's something about like just seizing play, just really going into the play and enjoying yourself for the sake of enjoying it, not for the sake of putting something up in an art gallery. That is just fun right there. Um, I lost my train of thought, so I'm going to stop. I'm doing that a lot lately. I do know that we can have this great expectation of ourselves that I'm not going to make anything unless it's perfect, or I'm not going to put it out there in front of you. And this is why I put it out there, because it's not good enough. And it isn't. It's not good enough for
mm-hmm.
the Van Gogh Museum. It's not, nobody's going to say, yeah, that looks like a convincing rendition of Van Gogh's piece that he actually painted. It's called Almond Blossom. He painted for his brother's child's nursery. And nope, not convincing. But I just enjoyed it
Yeah,
in the moment. And that
exactly.
was the
Yeah,
point.
I think it's not always the end product that's, like you said, that's always what you're trying to achieve. I mean, just I love creating more than the end product, you know. I love the feeling that it gives me. And yeah, it's really transformative. So, yeah.
It really is. It really, and for me, recognizing that the point isn't about it being good enough and it isn't about being perfect. It's just about being fully present to whatever it is. So I've heard this repeatedly in the last week, that some homeschool moms are getting their own coloring book or version of a coloring book and color pencils, and just doing that maybe during a time of when you're doing a read aloud or listening to an audible, I should say, or having another kiddo doing the read aloud. By the way, that's a possibility that I embraced in the end times, homeschool and times. Anyway, I was coloring or doing something which felt just kind of peaceful and meditative, and I still have that coloring book. It's unfinished. It's not brilliant. You're doing it now, Britt. No kidding. Oh, that's amazing. It's just, I don't know, it's just tapping into an energy of quiet
What
or
you said,
presence or
meditative,
something.
like that's what I think of. It can be very meditative, and um, yeah, it's just, I encourage everybody to find something creative to do. I wish that I would have known more about that in my earlier days of homeschooling, but I'm so thankful
Me too.
I know more about it now and I practice it, and it really really helps, my overall mood. And, you know, it is
Yeah.
important to be creative in some way, even if you don't think you're creative. Um, there's something you can do to create beauty, even if it's just for yourself.
So, I'm curious when you create things, because I know that this discussion, we both have older kids. I mean, you also have a younger kiddo, but we both are well established into homeschooling. And in the early years of homeschooling, I would have been like, okay, two things you're telling me to do: quiet time and be creative. Like, seriously, I'm just looking to breathe and think my thought without having someone interrupt my thought. And actually that can still happen, but definitely at that time. And so once a week I would take myself literally to a Starbucks and sit down for an hour or two. And at the time I thought I was writing, and I was writing, but it was mostly just putting stuff on paper because I was trying to like not have it all in here and then put it on paper. And yet later on, obviously, I've done a ton of writing. It became something creative intentionally. And how do you find time to actually do
Well, I
something
think
creative?
our situation is probably a little bit rare. I don't know. My husband is self-employed, and so he has arranged his schedule so that he's mostly off for a good chunk of the afternoon and the rest of the day, which has been the case.
Nice.
Um, but in the afternoons, our arrangement is that he sort of takes over with everything, and then I creative time, which has
Yeah.
been so wonderful and helpful. And him being supportive and allowing me to do this. But even when he was working, he would, or working more hours, I should say, or different hours. On the weekends, he would take the girls somewhere out so I could be alone and have that creative time, and a lot of times it was decorating or something like that. I just put on some music and decorate, and that was meditative to me. Just, it made me feel a
Mm-hmm.
sense of peace, and or baking something, it is
Mm-hmm.
about trying to squeeze it in sometimes, and then other times it's about setting aside a certain time of the day. I'm the type of person who needs ample alone time to recharge. And so anytime I can have the house to myself or some quiet, I really relish it, and it really helps.
Yeah. That's hard to get. Yeah. Time in your own house alone. as a homeschool
Yeah.
mom, that's really
And
tricky
I wish I
to
could say I
find.
had great advice for when kids are younger, um, because I didn't know how important it was when I was young. And it's hard. It's hard when your children are younger
Mhm.
and they're always, needing you for something. And but you do it, you can. I think when they're younger, rest is probably the most important thing. Um, and if you can find a way to fit creativity in, then that's great, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that rest and creativity, both of those things are hard to practice, but it's just like a muscle. You're practicing the strengthening of the muscle. And even though it might sound inconceivable to some moms right now, I get that because sometimes I do forget that I'm speaking to some moms that are like up all night in the middle of the night, or maybe they're, I talk about morning routines and then they're actually waking up with their kids in bed. So morning routine is trying to sneak out of the mattress without the child waking up, which doesn't happen. And so I know that, that sometimes I'm speaking to moms that are much different phase of life, but the key is to practice the thing. And eventually you will have the space
Yeah.
and to do all these things that we're speaking to. But if you get into the practice or routine of not doing it all,
Mm-hmm.
then you won't be doing it in 20 years either. Not necessarily. I mean, maybe something changes, but you're probably not going to be practicing that. So include it now, even if it's in,
Right.
just
Right. I
15-minute
agree.
chunks.
Yeah.
So, there is a couple things that I wanted to ask you about Mother's Day. Just a few quick questions. What would you say would be your favorite Mother's Day treat?
Are we talking food or just anything in general?
Anything you want. If you want to
Well,
say
I'm always
food,
down for chocolate, so there's always that. Yeah.
but that's like every
Um,
day.
I well, we sort of have a tradition, which I think a lot of people do, is, we usually plant flowers. I mean, that's something
Yeah,
I love to do. I grew up doing that. We would always get flowers on Mother's Day and plant them. And that's just sort of a tradition that's been carried on. Oh,
specific kind of flower.
it's starting to vary because I have a lot of pots that need flowers in them here pretty soon. And I like to switch it
Me
up a little
too.
bit. I'm getting a little bit more brave when it comes to buying different varieties of flowers. But I mean, my favorite flower is a peony, which if you hang around on my Instagram feed for, just even a little bit of time, you'll
Yeah,
discover that. Um, and roses. I love roses and planting those. I'm hoping to start a rose garden this year, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
really beautiful. That'll be perfect in your website. And I just want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows how to
Yes.
access your
Yeah,
website.
it's
Would you remind me the name?
havenwords.com. AVENWORDS.com.
Havenwords.com.
Yep.
Yep, check it out. It's really pretty. It is. So this is going to be the activity that you're doing on Mother's Day with the
um,
kids or without the kids?
Probably with uh, my girls and my husband. It's usually something we all do together in some capacity. My birthday is always right around that time, so they kind of get combined, and which is, it's fun and lots of celebrating, and so yeah.
Oh, I love that. So tell me the gift that you should give yourself, even if in only theory, whether you will or
Well,
will
I would
not.
really love to go on a solo vacation, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But uh, oh,
Where would you go?
well, one year I went to Florida, and that was wonderful. That was so fun. Um, mhm,
You went on
I
a
did.
solo trip to Florida.
Coming
Good
from
for
Nebraska,
a girl.
it was a nice treat.
Shift.
Yeah, it was
Love it.
very relaxing. Really filled up my tank, and so it was nice. So, yeah.
Sounds beautiful. Okay. So Florida it is. You're going to go on your vacation. I love that. I wouldn't have thought, or I wouldn't
I
have
mean,
expected you to say that, but that's
there's
why we're
probably a
chatting.
lot of other things I can think of, but that one's one of them.
I love it.
Yes,
Yeah. Eat, pray, love, girlfriend.
for sure. That would be nice.
So do you have any last, I love, do you have any last bits of encouragement for moms that are trying to encourage their
Oh boy.
own creativity?
I would say work on your perfectionism if you're afraid of putting things out there. Speaking from experience, and something that I struggle with is the perfection isn't going to come, but just do it anyway. And
Oh, I love that. No, really, I love that. Guess what? Here's the quote that I wanted to close with that I want to dedicate to you. I won't sing it, but it's a Martina McBride song,
yeah.
and it is called Anyway. You can spend your whole life building something from nothing. One storm can come and blow it all
Mm-hmm.
away. Build it anyway. You chase a dream that seems so out of reach, and you know it might not ever come your way. Dream it
I love that.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's really
Thank you,
thank
Holly, for
you.
being here. Thank you for sharing your world with us. I encourage everybody to go check out Holly's website. It is really
Thank
as
you.
beautiful as
It
I'm
was
saying.
it was good talking to you. All
Yeah.
right. Bye-bye.
Yeah. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.